It's time for Talking Pints. Now, my guest is a familiar face on GB News and, of course, on many other TV stations as well, and a prolific writer, commentator and author, especially, but not solely, on the royal family. I'm delighted to be joined by Angela Levin. Angela, welcome.
Hello,
to
cheers.
Talking Pints. Very
Cheers.
good to see you. Now, from what I can understand, you didn't have exactly the easiest of childhoods, did you?
No, I didn't. No, I was an only child. I was quite lonely and I had a very difficult mother. And the school thought I was sort of ridiculous and I was sent outside the classroom because I used to giggle too much, they said. And I was getting nowhere. And when I finished my A-levels, did 2, got very poor results, they said to me, you know where you're going to end up? Just washing up, doing the cleaning. So I thought they were all wrong about me.
Why did you struggle at school so much, do you think?
I didn't like what was going on. I mean, I was only bored, actually. I found that it wasn't for me. I didn't want to sit in a classroom and listen to somebody who wasn't terribly good telling me what to do and all that. I mean, there were 2 teachers I liked, but I wasn't suited, really, for school. I often tell friends who've got children and I said, don't worry about university. If it doesn't suit you, it doesn't matter. Don't worry. You've got to find where your bit is. And my bit is people. I know yours is as well. And I wanted to know all sorts of people, the royal people. I used to go to Buckingham Palace on a Sunday afternoon and look to see if the Queen might come out and invite me for tea. That's when I was very small.
This obsession started a long time ago.
I was very small. And I was fascinated by that. I was fascinated by ordinary people. I was fascinated by people who had nothing. I wanted to know, I always felt I was doing puzzles where I had to put bits of people together and then come to a conclusion what they like. I like to dig deep.
But it's a big leap, isn't it, from, the young woman who's left school, who hasn't done very well, who's been told she's not going to achieve much in her life, but who has interests. It's quite a big leap. How does the 18-year-old Angela Levin develop from here, career-wise? What do you... Well, you clearly want to cast off what you've been told by the teachers.
Yes, well, I didn't believe them, you see, that luckily.
So you had self-confidence?
Yes. I thought, I might not be perfect, but I've got a strength of character. And I had to do a typing and shorthand course, which nearly killed me because it was so boring. And then I sent out by an agency to write labels and write envelopes and fold things up. And I thought that at 18 I was finished. I was hopeless, couldn't do anything. Then one day the agency rang me up and said, would you go to the Observer? The editor of the magazine needs someone to help because his assistant is unwell. So I went there. And within a few minutes I thought, these are my people. These are what I'm interested in. There's so much life there. There's humour and concentration. Anyway, I worked incredibly hard for 2 weeks. And then they said, right, thank you very much, cheerio. So I gathered my confidence and I went in to see the editor and I said, I really want to work here. Is there not anything? So he said, all right, well, go and sit in the desk where the features editor is and we'll see what you can do. We'll go see. So I was going to do a Monday to Friday. The features editor was doing Tuesday to Saturday. I came in, big drawing on my desk of a man in a suit with lines coming off, and it said, the worst suit in the world. And he said, let me know what you think of this. So I didn't know if I could go out of the building or stay there, and I decided I would go out. I crept out. I went along to the West End, and I went to every suit shop and I said, can you help me? What do I do? And I tried to smile nicely and be all sweet and charming. And so they gave me lots and lots of things that I could do. Came back, typed it. He came in on Tuesday and said, well, what do you think? I said, well, here it is. He said, what do you mean, here it is? I said, well, I finished it. He said, what? And he grabbed it, he looked, he walked out, slammed the door. I thought I'd be out there.
Yeah.
Straight away. Came back after half an hour and said, we want to give you a contract and you stay here. We want you to be here. And they put it on the front of cover of the of the magazine and a double spread inside.
You'd found the thing you were good at.
I found what I was good at.
I think a lot of people go through life and perhaps don't find the thing they're good at, but you did find.
I was looking hard, you see. I wouldn't accept anything that wasn't so good. But then they started letting me speak to famous people for a paragraph where their holiday was and that. And they came in one day, this deputy editor, and said, look, Donald Sutherland's just done a new film and all the people have gone. Would you mind going to talk to him? But he's very, very difficult. If he tells you to get lost, don't worry. That's what he does all the time. So I crept to a smart hotel in Mayfair. There he was behind Times magazine. I went up, looked over it. He said, hello, hello. And we talked for 2.5 hours. And I wrote that up. And then I got a column to interview well-known people, royals, actresses, people who'd been accused of being lost a child, all that sort of thing. And so
you've flourished, and you haven't just done reporting. You've written an awful lot of books. And I was interested to see you'd written a book on Wormwood Scrubs, the prison. I just wondered sort of how you reacted to this news of this prisoner escape.
I thought I'd been to that prison. And I felt that I wasn't surprised because they haven't got enough people there looking after them. And they are scared of the prisoners. And they everything about it now is too terrible. I was a lay inspector for 10 years. And I used to have meetings with the man who ran it and all sorts of things. And I did it because I'm a workaholic. So I wanted to find out what makes people at the bottom of the pile. Why do they do this? What's happened to them? What's been the thing they've got in common? And a lot of them have had mothers of 16, 15, and they don't want to know, and they're not interested in them going to school. Or they have their boyfriends, and one of them said to me, as soon as she got a new boyfriend, she threw me out. I was on the street since I was 12. And you hear their stories, and they were fascinating for me. And it was fine for 10 years, and then they cut the money that they were giving to the prison. And the food for the prisoners was disgusting. In an egg cup, they had beans and lots of bread. I didn't think that was a decent meal. And so I complained, and they got cross with me, government. And so I said, I wrote a book.
No, well, perhaps they should have listened, given the state the prisons are in now. But, Angela, one of the books you spent a lot of time on was the book on Prince Harry.
Yes.
15 months, on and off, meeting... And this is when he was fun and popular.
He was fun, and he was charming, he was lovely, and he had his mother's sense of dealing with people who were mentally ill, physically ill, and he really seemed to love it. He seemed very happy. He said he adored his grandmother.
Yeah.
He said that William and he were so close that nobody could understand what they'd been through. He loved his father, and all those things, of course, changed when a certain person came along.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And he's back in the country today.
Yes.
But he's come without that certain person called Meghan. And he's not going to see, even though it's the anniversary of the Queen's death tomorrow, he's not going to see the family at all.
No, but quite frankly, if you have a father who is a king or very important, you have to book the time well before, don't you? You can't just ring up and say, look, tomorrow can you squeeze me in for an hour? Yeah. I mean, he would have known that he couldn't do that, and it's very arrogant if he didn't. But also, you know, King Charles is in Scotland at the moment. Yeah. So it's not that he doesn't necessarily want to see him. It's just, with all this, it must be very emotional. King Charles adored his mother, a bit frightened at the beginning. But
well, what a huge day it was, wasn't it, Ian?
Yes.
Huge day it was.
And I don't think he wants somebody moaning, coming in and saying, look, I want an apology for this and that and the other and something else, you know.
And not the right time, perhaps.
It's not the right time.
No. Those days, the 10 days after the Queen's death, in the run-up to the funeral, was quite extraordinary. Yes. And you know, a world looking in at a country that could still do things, and do things incredibly well. And I think the same went for the coronation as well, Angela. I just wonder, as somebody, you know, who spent all this time chronicling the royals so that the rest of us can understand it, a year on, the monarchy's doing OK, isn't it?
I think it's doing very well. I think, well, the numbers of people who are for it has gone up. I don't think you expect young people between 18 and 24 to want a monarchy. They couldn't care less, really.
Yeah.
But I think that King Charles has taken it on slowly and gradually. He's made no change to the Queen's basic views. He believes in the things that she believed in.
Because we were worried about some political
Yes,
aspects,
that he would be very bossy and he would want to change everything. I've waited all these years. I don't want this, I don't want that. But he's not. He's gone quietly and gently, but quite firmly as well. And I think with the company of Queen Camilla...
Who you're a big fan of, aren't you?
Yes, I am a big fan of her. I spent a year with her, wrote her biography, which came out at the end of last year.
Yeah.
And she's one of those people that the more you're with her, the more you like her. And actually, what is incredibly fascinating for me is when a couple have been together for a long time, when he came back for something that she was involved with, she had a party sort of thing, which I was invited to, and he didn't know if he could make it or not, and he came in really fast. She looked at him, he looked at her, and this was only after COVID.
Yeah.
And the smile they gave each other was so lovely. It was so touching. It wasn't for show-off.
It was real.
It was just lovely because they were pleased to see each other.
All this time you spent with them, Angela Levin, final thought, if we can. Do the royals trust you? I mean, Charles saying about Nicholas Witchell, that ghastly man. Do the royals trust you?
I wouldn't dream of asking. That's up to them.
But do you think they trust you?
Well, I can't say that, but I'm very straightforward. That's what I can say. It's up to them whether they trust me.
Well, I think they must do, given how close you managed to be to some of them.
Yes, but I like that, but I wouldn't be arrogant to say, oh, yeah.
No, OK, no, fair enough. Well, Angela, it's a great story, great inspiration to people, you know, who have been told at school they're no blooming good. You've proved them all wrong, and thank you for joining me on Talking Pints.
Thank you very much.